As long as I can read, I'm good.
Okay. All right, we're ready whenever you are.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, November 1st, 2007, and this is Tara Waller-Lockett and Mary Margaret Bailey. We're here in Mobile, Alabama, interviewing Celia J. Collins. Ms. Collins, can you please tell us how old you are and how long you've been practicing law?
I am still 52 years old as we speak, and I have been practicing law 27 years, effective last month.
Now, where do you practice, and what is the nature of your practice?
I practice in Mobile at Johnstone Adams. I've been there since I got out of law school. At this point in my career, my practice is primarily employment and labor law.
Where did you grow up, and what made you decide to become a lawyer?
I grew up, I was born in Chicago, but I ended up in high school in Opelika, Alabama. And I think I started just thinking about law school first when I was in high school and was active in the youth legislature program. And Chief Justice Torbert was also from Opelika. He was the state senator then. His daughters were close friends of mine. He helped us a lot in our youth legislature project, and I think I was influenced by him at that point. A year or two later, I think the biggest influence was, it's kind of funny, but it was the Watergate hearings. I was in college by then. I think I was a freshman, and Hal Heflin sitting there examining those witnesses just made me think, that's what I want to do. And that really is what got me started, and pretty much after my freshman year, that's where I was headed.
Okay. Now, what made you decide to get involved in the Alabama State Bar?
When I came to the firm, my firm has always been very active in the bar, and my partner, Ben Harris, was a bar commissioner and encouraged us all to be active. I think I've only missed one bar convention in 27 years when I was literally 9 months pregnant. At the same time, I went to Vanderbilt Law School, and you know, there's more Alabama, Cumberland people down here, but a lot of my Vanderbilt friends from law school were attending the bar convention. So I became active that way because it was a good little reunion tool. And Ben helped steer me to some activities and committees and things with the state bar. So I started pretty much at the beginning.
Okay. Now, you've held a number of leadership positions both at the local and state bar levels, which included you're a bar examiner, you're bar commissioner, you were chair of the task force on women in the profession, you were on the committee with women in the profession, chair of the labor and employment section of the bar, and you're on the Mobile Bar Executive Committee. You were also appointed by the bar to the Legal Services Board. Now, what do you consider to be successful keys in leadership?
I think, and I learned this a long time ago in some civic work from some board training, the trainer said, you need to volunteer where your heart is. And if you don't, you won't be successful or you won't be happy. And I think really the number one rule is spend your time on things that you care the most about, that you're passionate about. And if you do that, you're going to be a leader because you care. And surround yourself with like-minded people, which Mary Margaret has been in several of my activities with the bar.
That sounds awesome. Now,
Okay, all right, we're ready.
what do you think are the keys to a successful law practice?
I think the number one thing in that area is balance. You got to balance the family, you got to balance work, church, and the rest of your life to be a whole person. You see people who, you know, the almighty billable hour, and all they care about is billing 2,400 hours a year, and you know, it's the classic thing. At the end of their life, are they going to care? No, and I think if you're doing a lot of things, community activity, you know, family, children, whatever your situation is, along with your law practice, then you're going to be more balanced and a happier person and probably happier in everything you're doing.
Sure.
Now, what advice do you have for lawyers beginning their law practice, in particular, young female attorneys?
As far as beginning your law practice, going to a firm or in practice, I think fortunately today there are no differences for gender, just as far as going into a firm and getting assignments. I may be wrong, I may be naive, but I really think we're so past that. I mean, 50% of the students are women, all that. As far as after you're in the firm and how you handle the balance with your personal life and your family, for women particularly, it's not easy. It's not easy, and I think you have to make the choice yourself as to how you want to do it. If you want to work part-time, that's fine, as long as it's fine with your firm. There probably still are some obstacles that creates in terms of your advancement, but that's a choice. That's an absolute choice. If you want to work full-time, I think the women need to get themselves in a firm or a situation where full-time is not 80 hours a week. I've been fortunate. My firm is not a sweatshop, and I work full-time, but I'm not expected to just clock hours. I've never been expected, even when I was associate, to just clock hours when I clocked hours. But again, you have to have good child care. I mean, there's a lot of challenges to being a full-time woman attorney and also a mother.
There are. Thank you, Cecilia. Now, what pitfalls do you think that young lawyers face, and what can they do to avoid them? And I'd like to focus on women lawyers with that question.
Well, women lawyers and male lawyers as well, I think, and it all goes back to what I said about the leadership and going where your heart is. I think one of the big pitfalls is people get in practices or firms or jobs that are not the right place for them. And they're miserable, they hate what they're doing, they hate the kind of cases they're doing, and it makes them hate the practice of law. And I think, and this is something for women too, because I think there's a lot of opportunities in non-law firm legal practice where you can balance the family a little bit better than you can in most traditional law firms. I think young lawyers need to recognize that they're not happy and do something about it as soon as they're sure that this is not the place for them.
That is good advice. Now, what is the best thing you ever did with regards to your law practice?
It's not that I did it intentionally totally, but I think I concentrated in employment law from the beginning. My dad was actually a plant manager, and I grew up in a union plant, and I grew up with his labor attorney at our dinner table when they were having strikes and all that. So I was interested in that area, and I started in that area at the beginning, and I love that area. And I love the people. HR folks are wonderful people to work with, and the cases are always interesting. So I think that was probably the best thing in terms of overall success, in terms of having a good practice, as well as my satisfaction with what I'm doing.
Now, can you please share something about the circuit you practice in that is either unique or historical?
Well, we all know Mobile is extremely historical, but I think that is also its uniqueness within the state. And as I said, I'm from Opelika, so I'm from a different part of the state originally. I think the port culture that we have with the blended cultures and nationalities, the French, British, whatever, gives us a broader view of the world, a more, in today's terms, more global view, although I think that was true when I came here almost 30 years ago, and we didn't use the word global. And I think in terms of the judges and the juries, I think the perspective of judicial issues is different in Mobile than maybe in Opelika.
Can you please share with them something that you believe that is significant with regards to a legal event that's occurred in this circuit?
One that stands out in my mind, and it's certainly nothing I was involved with, but I think it was significant statewide. When I first came here, I've been here a few years, and just blocks from my home in Midtown, a black youth was hung from a tree by the Ku Klux Klan, as it turned out. And they, believe they tried the case in the Southern District of Alabama against the Ku Klux Klan, got a huge judgment, and basically decimated in this state. And, obviously they got rid of something that needed to be deleted, and as far as I know, they did it effectively. And I think, as far as big significance, that may be one of the biggest things out of this circuit in my lifetime.
I think so too, and I was young at that time, and I believe it was
Michael Donald, I think was his name.
And they bankrupted
the Ku Klux Klan
as a result of that. You're absolutely right. Now, could you tell us some recollections of a memorable lawyer in this circuit?
Well, the one everybody talks about, and we have to be the one that I mention, is Bubba Marsal, who was just kind of a Matlock type. Came in a little rumpled looking, but talk like Hal Heflin, that kind of good old boy talk, but mesmerized the juries and the judges. So he was fun to watch.
Now, I think you've told us you went to Vanderbilt Law School. Could you please tell me some of your experiences while at Vanderbilt?
Well, that was interesting. I went to a women's college before. I went to co-ed high school, but women's college, and came out of there to Vanderbilt Law School, which was maybe 18% female at the time. So that was a big culture shock after 4 years in a women's college. But it was fun. I mean, the guys were very protective and encompassing of us, and it was a good experience for my future life, where I would remain a very small minority in my practice most of the time.
Could you tell us your most interesting case that you've handled?
Ooh, y'all don't want to hear this one. I do employment law. I had a sexual harassment case involving a supervisor who allegedly exposed himself on the production line in a condom factory. Need I say more?
No, you do not.
I don't think I'll ever top that.
And you've talked about Bubba Marsalis as being a lawyer who you have great recollections of, but can you tell me about a lawyer who's most influenced your practice?
Well, I think I'd have to mention more than one. I was, again, very fortunate when I came to my firm, practicing with good lawyers who took me in as the first woman lawyer in the firm, and I was mentored by 3 people, Bill Hardy, Ben Harris, and Brock Gordon. And they're all wonderful lawyers, very different styles, very different personalities. But I think the influence of those 3 was the best thing in the world for me, because hopefully I took away some of the best of each of them. And I think that has influenced at least my style in litigation and that type of thing today.
Now, what is your most memorable or humorous in-court experience?
Oh, there's a lot of them, but this one was not that long ago. It was just a year or 2 ago. I was in the middle of a closing argument in the fancy new federal courthouse in Montgomery, Alabama, which at the time apparently did not have all the kinks worked out. As I am in the middle of my closing argument, the fire alarm went off. I looked up, the judge looked up, the jury looked up. The judge said, "I guess we have to leave." And we did. And then I came back and got to finish my closing argument, but I will give the judge credit. He didn't even look at the clock. He let me just finish. So.
Now, what was your scariest legal experience, whether in law school, during a bar exam, or during your practice?
I'm sorry, can you say that light, this one?
Now, can you please tell us what your scariest legal experience was, whether it be sitting for the bar exam, in the courtroom, or in law school?
Well, I still can't drive by that Civic Center in Montgomery without getting a knot in my stomach 27 years later, so the bar exam was pretty bad. But I think overall, it's still scary. It's waiting for the jury. You're done, your adrenaline's gone, and it is in their hands, and they're in that room, and you're just sitting there, trying to be nonchalant. And that will always get to me. I mean, it's just scary.
So if they come back in 5 minutes, or if they come back in an hour, is 5 minutes better?
It depends. And, I usually defend cases, so it's my client that may be paying big money.
Sure. Now, what changes have you observed in the practice of law since you were admitted in 1980 that you consider to have had the most profound impact on the practice of law or the legal system?
Unquestionably, technology. When I came to my firm, I think we still had MAG cards. Y'all probably don't even know what those are. We did get word processors pretty quickly. There was no FedEx, no fax, of course, no computer. And I can't even imagine practicing today without those things. The computer, particularly, and email, I think is changing us every day, and we're all still trying to get used to it. I don't think the rules of civil procedure in federal or state court even contemplate right now, is it good service that day if you email it to someone? So we still have a lot of changes to catch up. I mean, the research ability on the computer is just amazing and a wonderful, wonderful thing. If you think about how long it used to take you to go to the library and look things up and how you can get it almost instantly today. The courtroom technology, and I don't know that that's really evolved as much in Mobile quite yet, although it's coming daily. But that's going to continue to impact us, where the lawyer, litigating lawyer, is going to have some proficiency with the technology to be able to present their case, because everybody else is going to be doing it, and you can't walk in with those big phone boards anymore. Because I didn't say that. What did I? That's not what I said. What I said, advice for like young lawyers. I said something. Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about your involvement in the bar. Can you give a young lawyer some advice on how to get involved in the bar and how to stay active and not let it overwhelm them?
First of all, I would strongly encourage every young lawyer to get involved with the state bar. I think if you haven't been involved, you don't realize what services they offer, how the people in Montgomery on Dexter Avenue are truly there to help you. You can call up, you have a question about a computer, you have a question about a friend that you think may have a drinking problem who's a lawyer. I mean, they will help you with everything. And it's, it's one of the things I enjoy the most about being a lawyer is my interaction and friendship with the people I've worked with through the years. Through my state bar work. All they have to do, all young lawyers have to do is speak up. I mean, we need help. And I think if there's something they want to do, there's a project they want to work on particularly, they just need to send an email to the president or the executive director of the bar, turn the form in where it asks you what committee you want to do, and stick with it. And of course, if they volunteer to do it, they need to do a good job. And it's not always fun, and it's not always the time you want to do it when you need to travel up to Montgomery to a meeting, but that's important to doing the work and staying active in the bar.
Cecilia, it's been a pleasure meeting you today. And in concluding our interview, would you leave us with one humorous story of either a case you were handling or something that happened in trial?
Could I really think you took my best one?
Celia, it was such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for taking the time out to let me interview you and give us some of your wisdom. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tara.
Yeah.